Welcome to the Horror Syndicate's Horror Movie Massacre. I want to thank you for joining us. We have a good show tonight, hopefully. We are talking about my dear friend Seth T. Miller. I think it's been a while since I said that. His favorite horror movie of all time. And of course, that movie is An American Werewolf in London. So we're going to talk about, just like any other episode of the Horror Movie Massacre, as we've been doing for about a year now. uh, We're going to talk about the things that worked for us, things that didn't work, maybe if there's anything at all. And of course, we will share our scores, our slash scores. Remember, we come up with a score off of 10 categories on a scale of 1 to 10, and that's how we get our score. Of course, there is a spoiler warning for a movie that is 42 years old. If you haven't seen it, I'm confused as to why you're here. If you could do me a favor, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, hit the like button. It helps us spread the word. We have over 50,000 people that follow the Horror Syndicate, and yet 9 or 10 watch our show. Thank you for that. Uh, and if you're on Facebook, do the same thing. If you're on YouTube, we have just passed over 1,500 subscribers. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That was our goal for this year, and we finally did it. So now, with all that not residual. Now that that's out of the way, let's bring Seth in, see if everything's working. My computer was it just rebooted, and it's so damn old that it's slow. So hopefully things are running smoothly for Seth and myself. Remember, hit that like button for us. Give us a share if you would like. Here is Seth. And how's it going, Seth? Is it working better now?
Yeah, still a little glitchy here on my end, but
Okay.
I kind of expected it because we are talking about American Werewolf in London.
Yeah,
So
every time we get to do a show that's one of your favorite movies that you're like amped, ready to go, your connection fucks up or something happens. But the good thing is you're gonna get your time to talk because I know this is your favorite horror movie. I always get it mixed up. Sometimes I think it's Night of the Living Dead, and sometimes I think it's this. But then sometimes I think it's A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, even though I know it's not A Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, oh, also, Happy Werewolf Wednesday, Seth.
thanks, same to you.
Yeah. So there is a bit of a delay.
Yeah,
If
Night
you
of the
get
Living Dead
no,
is my second favorite.
not is it?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm gonna go through the Sean Sheridan comments as I do because he puts these up before we even go live. This was like a half an hour before. And again, sorry we're late. I was out of the house doing some stuff, and then I had to grab some food for the kids for dinner, even though it's kind of late. Went to McDonald's. Got the McRib, even though it's not the greatest. I like it though. First comments. This was a good werewolf movie. The practical effects are excellent. The two leads, David and Alice, are good with a very good chemistry. It is a lot of comedy, Burr, but when it was dark and brutal, it nails it. Yes, it does. The main two negatives are one, the whole thing with Jack's ghost telling David to kill himself through the movie is disgusting and gross. I don't know. I think that's actually one of the strengths of this movie. It sets it apart because of the curse of the werewolf, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And I like that they kept showing Jack rotting more and more. It might be disgusting and telling him to kill himself. It just gets him out of limbo. I mean, it's a self-serving thing for Jack. I like many have suffered with depression, and I understand. I understand, but it's not really. I don't know how to even combat that. Um, it's not in that context. Like I said, Jack is doing it for himself to get out of limbo with all the people he killed, David killed. So, uh, and the comedy is not great. Some of the comedy is good, like the naked man stole my
well,
balloons was a great moment. Uh, You gotta admit though that transformation seems the best. This could have been a five, but those two things, a 3.5. Wow, harsh. Steven, we haven't seen you in a while. Uh, Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I cut that together myself. I really do appreciate that. Jordan, how's it going? Everybody skipped over the Phantasm episodes and they're back. How about that? An excellent movie. American Werewolf in London is ace. I want American Werewolf in Paris to get a Blu-ray release. You're not alone, my friend. You are not alone.
I
We
do
are
too.
doing, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Where is that? Is it? It's streaming though. I think I mentioned that a couple episodes ago. Which for me, that'll have to do because my DVD looks terrible. Um, Next comment we got is Happy Werewolf Wednesday. Yes, werewolves. We love werewolves, especially Seth. Hey, how are you? Hi, folks. Greetings from Britain. How's everything doing? Hope you're all well. I hope you're well as well. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you subscribed and hopefully you love this movie. It takes place in your area, kind of. Um, so Seth, let's get this started with a bang. First off, we usually wait to do our scores, and we're going to do our scores last. But the Horror Syndicate community on Facebook, as we do our 5-star ratings, gave this a great score. I think 94% overall. What do you think about that? Oop, go back up there. What do you think about that? Oh,
I think that's fair. That's fair. It's actually very close to my score, so and pretty close to yours as well.
yeah, it's and our combined score. Yeah, I think it's a good score. I mean, this movie. I'm gonna say a few things before I let Seth go and talk about it because this is his episode. This is when we get to my favorite horror movie, which we've already passed it. I would take the reins, but um, this movie is first of all we inducted it into our horror hall of fame, which there are only like 6 or 7 movies in there, and I think it's very deserving. It's not my favorite werewolf movie. It's not my second favorite werewolf movie, but I respect the hell out of it. It's got I know the back of your hand. I respect the hell out of it. It's got the best period. Nobody did it better. Werewolf transformation scene of all time. But I kind of agree with Sean with some of the comedy. It leans a little bit too much into comedy for me. But when it gets into the suspenseful moments, it's top notch, completely top notch. And I gotta say, there's a little bit of mystery and intrigue in this movie. It's really good. I think the cast though is top notch in this movie as well. Good chemistry between the leads, like Sean said. I agree with that. But I love Jack. I fucking love him, and he's a big part of the movie for me. You know, not to mention this has one of the better nightmare sequences in any movie. Really fun, just out of nowhere. You know, it's just a fun ass movie, and it deserves the score it has. And I do believe it belongs in the Horror Hall of Fame. We're gonna get into more of the Horror Hall of Fame. We're gonna do a vote. The Horror Syndicate panel is going to pick 4 movies, and we're going to vote on the next inductee of the Horror Hall of Fame. I think right now it's 1931's Dracula, The Exorcist, Psycho, maybe The Texas Chainsaw. I'd have to look. It's been a while. So we're going to get back into that going into 2024 on the horrorsyndicate.com. Just some quick comments. Yes, I've seen American Werewolf in London. I mean, exactly. Good point. I hear Sean. Different times. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, good points. Yeah, I agree with you. Not my favorite either, but my top 10. I get the limbo thing, but I still find it distasteful. But that's me. I mean, it happens in the Paris movie too. I skipped the Phantasm events because I haven't seen any of them. Oh, it's time to get in there and watch the Phantasm movies. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Maybe with the fifth one. It is a classic. It's one of the. It's 41 years old, 42 years old. So absolutely, I love Seth's Supernatural episodes. So definitely a Were Dog Wednesday. All right, so Seth, let's get into this. What makes you love this movie so much?
Okay, well, before I get into that, I just want to give my 2 cents on Sean's
Oh,
comment about the whole thing with Jack,
mhm.
because I get what he's saying. I too suffer from depression bad. But the way I look at it is like what Jack is doing by telling David to kill himself. It's it's sort of like a harsh reality of the fact that David is inflicted with a curse and he's going to change and he's going to kill a lot of people. And the only way that can stop, the only way to stop the bloodshed is if David dies. So
Mhm.
I don't look at it in the same context of like a bullying perspective of, people telling people to kill themselves, stuff like that. It's more of the fact that if you continue to live, you're going to turn into a monster. You're going to kill people, and that's going to kill your conscience as well. So that's where I disagree with Sean. I just wanted to kind of throw that perspective out there, that I look at it more. It's not even so much. There's a little bit of, Jack wants to get out of limbo, but I think it's more about preventing other people from dying. And I mean, naturally, and as we see in this film too, like once David does eventually learn that he did kill those people after he first transformed, he was torn up about it. He was very guilt ridden about it. So it was kind of like Jack knowing his friend and trying to stop other people from getting killed. So that's my 2 cents on what Sean was saying. And now we'll get to the subject at hand, which was, what was your question? Why do I love this film?
Yeah.
So I love this film because, one, I'm a huge werewolf nut. Okay, and
What? Really?
this film, I know it's a shock. It's a shock. But like this film, when it gets talked about, it gets talked about rightfully so for its effects, right? Because the effects are amazing. However, I love more than just the effects of this movie. And um, one of the things is I know that the comedy doesn't always land. There's certain elements of the dialogue that doesn't quite land. That being said, I think there is some good wit, there is some good humor in it. And what I particularly like about this film is that John Landis, he nails the majority of the comedy moments, right? Because it's all through like the characters, their dialogue, their interactions with each other, the way they react to stuff. That's where the funny stuff comes from. It's not like a situational comedy. It's not like someone tripping over, a banana or something like that. It's the comedy comes from the characters and their personalities. And on the flip side of that, I think what John Landis also does very well is he takes the horror seriously. Like all the I, even though this is often billed as a horror slash comedy, I think it's more of a horror film than a horror comedy. And
I do too.
I think it's a horror film that I think it's a horror film that has comedy elements in it because of the characters and because of some of the dialogue. But when the horror elements happen, they're terrifying. Like when Jack and David are first attacked out on the moors, even before they got attacked, just hearing the howl, like the howl is definitely one of the best howls on film. And then you have the whole moment where they're hearing this, like the way that David Naughton and Griffin Dunn, the way that they like the expressions on their face, like they really come off as terrified. And I think that whole attack is brutal. Especially with Jack, screaming for his life. He's killing me. Like it felt like it was like a real cry of terror. So there's that. Like the opening, I think is really good with the horror. The nightmare sequences, the way that they hit, especially the double nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
it really hits hard, and it's just well done stuff. And then even like the first transformation and the way that I kind of wish we saw the werewolf more in this movie, and I kind of wish it was more of a bipedal rather than a quadrupedal. But
Same here.
But I do kind of like that restraint too, because it's like we see David transforming this amazing effects sequence, but then we get these attacks on all these random people throughout the city. And it ties up very nicely with the train one, which I really enjoy. I really like that whole sequence with the guy running. I forget what his name was. I know it too. I should know it off the top of my head. But that whole sequence is really good. And like again, when he's running, like you sense the dread and you sense the fear. And then, when, and then, at the end as well, the whole crazy scene in Piccadilly Circus, I think is awesome. So I think what I really like about this film overall, what I really love about this film is the characters and their personalities. And I really like the horror elements of it. And obviously the effects are top notch. I mean, not just the transformation, but the effects on Jack himself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he first shows up in the hospital room, it was like the effects on his neck being all torn. Great stuff.
That, as you know, I'm not a huge werewolf guy. I do like him, but Jack is one of the standouts for me in this movie. I like when he just pops up randomly, and the makeup effects on him alone are great. And even I guess the puppet work later on in the movie with him is really good as well. The last time you see him, and plus Griffin Dunn is really good as the character. And then one of the things that really kind of helps this movie like almost immediately is the relationship between David and Jack. They look like they're and act like they are two friends who've known each other for years, and are really truly good friends hiking across Europe, and everything that happens in The Slaughtered Lamb is really great. There's a lot of good in this movie that happens. Jack's my favorite character in the movie. So,
yeah, but I mean, you're absolutely right though. Like the David and Jack, there's a chemistry between David Naughton and Griffin, where it's like you almost kind of like feel like they are actually friends. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And not all the dialogue works, but like just the majority of the dialogue. I mean, even when they're talking in the beginning, and then of course, like when Jack visits David in the hospital. I think it's great. Yeah. Hold on a second. Hey, girls, you're supposed to be in bed. Yeah.
Two shows in a row.
God. Anyway.
They're just giggling. That's funny. I know it. I've got two kids of my own. I get it. By the way, the F and the J are nowhere near each other on the keyboard. I don't know how you messed that up, Steven, but I had to put that on the thing. Anyway, so yeah, I love your daughters made me lose track of my thoughts because they're giggling off camera.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Now she's laughing even more. All right.
Yeah, it's my fault probably.
Go to bed. Good night. Love you. Sleep well.
Night.
Night. Do not run.
Night.
But I want to run.
Okay. Anyway.
Anyway. Yeah. I forgot what we were talking about, but before we move any further, anybody who's watching, if you are interested in Seth and I doing a different show that has nothing to do with horror, we started a new show last week, or actually it was just a couple days ago. It was Monday, wasn't it? On my other channel, Rage of Razor. Go hit the subscribe button over there if you like anything that has to do with superheroes or action movies. Seth and I have a big affinity for 80s action movies like Rambo, Commando, Die Hard, and superhero movies. We talked about the latest DC animated movies, the Tomorrowverse, the first three, and we're trying to build that channel up. Going to do a lot more videos over there just like this. If you're interested in that stuff, go check out Rage of Razor. I'll leave the links in the comments, and check out Retro Outsider on Facebook. That's the Facebook page for it. And eventually we'll probably change the name of Rage of Razor to Retro Outsider. Anyway, back to the movie. So, what are some of the other things? We haven't mentioned, I can never remember the nurse's name. The nurse.
Price.
Yes. She's a pretty great character, and very easy on the eyes, if you know what I mean. What do you think of her characterization in the movie, and what do you just think of her as a whole?
Yeah, I think she's a good character. I mean, you know, I don't quite buy into the romance between the two. Like,
is it because it's so sudden?
It's pretty fast. Like, I could buy it for the most part up until they say the L word to each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's more.
I think she.
So say it's a more believable love story than oh God, what was it recently? Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know much about your friend Ramsey. But if he's looking to get exposure through the horror syndicate, tell him to check out the Facebook page and message us, and we can help promote his books, or if he has copies, we can do reviews and such too. We'd be totally down for that. But check us. It's on. You got to message us on Facebook because that's the best way to get a hold of us. I think it was the actors and the actors they portrayed. Yeah, one of the side stories that never really gets talked about is the doctor who kind of goes off on his own mission.
Dr. Hirsch, yeah.
Yes. Because there's some great scenes when he goes towards the slaughtered lamb and all that stuff that I really he doesn't get that much play in the movie, but he gets some, and it's very intriguing, and I like the way it plays out. Because you kind of have to have that character in a movie like this, you know?
Yeah, well, he was a good character for being someone who was listening to David, but also rationalizing everything. Is I mean, even after visiting, the slaughtered lamb, he was concerned about David and his werewolf stuff, but he thought of it more in the terms of lycanthropy, more in that way, as opposed to actually being a werewolf. But I thought he was a good supporting character,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was. I mean, that's one of the things. He was
needed too, because and one of the things I was going to mention too, I forgot, was we were talking about Nurse Alex Price and the romance there, and I think Kathy brought up the actors and the way that the characters are portrayed. It's kind of interesting that I think David and Griffin had a lot of chemistry where you could buy into their friendship, but I didn't quite feel the chemistry between David and Jenny as far as their characters and as far as falling in love, because I don't think David is a phenomenal actor, but he's got great moments in this movie. And then but it also could be, the dialogue that he has, just some of the stuff that he says to her,
Mhm.
I don't know.
No, he isn't that great of an actor. He's a good singer, though. He's making it. He's got a chance. He's taking it. Have you ever heard that song?
No,
You've never heard that song? Have you ever heard any of his songs?
no, I have not.
Oh my God. I'm gonna send you that video. Um, it's terrible. It's a disco type song. Have you ever seen Detroit Rock City?
A long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Disco Bunnies, when you watch that, the song they're playing is that song. And when
okay.
yeah, so I listened to it a few years ago, and I'm like, this song's terrible. Who sings this? I looked it up, and it said David. Not. I look, and I'm like, holy shit! It's the guy from American Werewolf in London. He had a great career in the '70s. I don't know, but yeah, I agree. He's not great, and that's probably why I gravitate towards Jack. I also like, regardless of what anybody says about the whole suicide is a tragic thing, and I get that. I feel like I don't want to talk about linger on that because I know it's a terrible thing. It's affected a lot of people. It's affected me. I've lost friends, and so is depression. But he's trying to break the cycle and all that stuff. We've already gotten into that, but I love his character, and I like even the first time he pops up, he's just eating his food, what's his name's food off of his plate, and he's got everything hanging off of his face and shit. It's just get the fuck out of here, Jack. I love that shit. That's good stuff. And
I think he's I think he's the best actor in the movie, and and it's not only that too, but it's also the way that the character is written as well. I think there's some of the smart dialogue from John Landis. And I love that whole conversation in the hospital room though. It's like, Jack's dead and he's in limbo, but he's having this really casual conversation about Debbie Klein showing up at his funeral, and finding solace in Mark Levine's bed, an asshole, I just love that whole scene, and I love the way that Griffin plays the characters.
By the way, the third film, this is something I wanted to get into after, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But if they made a third film, An American Werewolf in Venice, just saying.
Know what I want to see?
What?
American Werewolves in London, and we go back to the slaughtered lamb.
Multiple werewolves. And that's the sequel.
Do the whole, do the whole plural thing.
Yeah. The thing is, I feel like they really, the studio or whoever really messed up here. They could have had a whole series of movies, and we didn't get a sequel until 1997, I think. By the way, An American Werewolf in Paris is streaming on Peacock, and I think it's Tubi, so it's available to watch probably in HD.
Well, did you know that John Landis wrote a detailed treatment for a sequel to American Werewolf in London, where it was supposed to be about Jack's love interest, Debbie Klein, going to London to try to find out what happened to them. And of course, she comes across Nurse Price and all that. I haven't read the details of it in a while, but it sounded like it would have been cool. I'm just wondering why
John Landis
wasn't able to make us. Yeah, it does.
There
wasn't I wish that the script was actually released, so there's not really much information to go off, but I can find something to type up to or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
something I could
Yeah,
find.
I'm sure it's
kind of research.
information that definitely needs to be put out there. I mean, it's out there, but
Yeah.
for our followers and everything. American Werewolf versus Radu. Um, that's what Full Moon's missing is a werewolf, right? They don't have a werewolf movie, do they?
No, I don't think they do. And like, it's weird too because like, I think it'd be kind of cool to introduce werewolves in the subspecies
Yeah,
world.
because they'd be a subspecies too, right?
Exactly.
Subspecies two, also. You know what I mean?
TOO.
TOO, yeah. That could be the name of the movie, Subspecies 2. So anyway, now this all right, buddy. Thanks for joining us. Hope you hit the subscribe button, let your friend know. We'll try to help them out if we can. Um, let's talk about things, and this may not even work, but is there anything about the movie that just bothers you? I know this is not your number one favorite movie, of course, because Die Hard apparently is the perfect movie. But like, is there
Exactly.
anything that when you watch it, like if there's just this one thing other than Naughton's acting?
Oh, I think some of the dialogue isn't great. Um, I still don't get the knock joke in the beginning. Uh, I'm waiting for them to explain that one. I don't think some of the dialogue between David and Alex is particularly great.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the only other. See, I don't have a problem with this anymore, but like when I first watched it, the abrupt ending, I was just kind of like, what? Why? But it doesn't bother me anymore.
I love it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's about it. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think because I think for the most part everything works. I mean, the score works when it's used. The use of all the music, which is
Yeah.
kind of fun with how the music is mostly like upbeat, even in
Mm-hmm.
these like dark and tragic things. Which, by the way, um, there's someone who did a bunch of like work for like some of the Blu-ray releases, and I think even did a book on American Werewolf in London. He was able to track down uh, basically Elmer Bernstein's original piece of score that was supposed to be used for the transformation.
Mm.
And so he put it against the footage of the transformation. And it's on YouTube. I'll try to find it to share it. The video starts with this guy breaking it down, like everything, where the point where he explains how John never intended to use score for the transformation. He had the song already set, but the composer was kind of like, hey, let me just record something, run it by you, and if you don't like it, no problem. And he didn't use it, of course, but this is now on YouTube where you can watch the transformation scene with the original piece of score, and I actually quite like it because it almost kind of sounds like a classic horror movie in a way during that whole transformation. I'll have to try to find it to share it.
This is for you, not me.
Oh, the Howlin'. I'm a big Howlin' fan as well. I actually love the majority of the Howlin' movies and all three of the Howlin' books. If you haven't read the Howlin' books, I do recommend them, especially since, and I've brought this up before, but out of the 8 movies, only 2 of the movies were actually based on the books, and of those 2, they're based on the same book, which is part 1. The second and third Howlin' books surprisingly have not been adapted, and even though they are arguably better than the original. So yeah, the huge, long story short, huge Howlin' fan here as well.
So my favorite is Silver Bullet, and the Howling movie my second favorite. And I know. One thing I wanted to say about the music I thought was great was that the songs had to do with the moon, you know, and funny stories. My
Yeah,
brother-in-law, his
yeah.
this is what his probably his favorite werewolf movie, one of his tops probably of all time. Him and his wife danced to Moon Dance for their first dance as a married couple, which I thought was pretty cool because of this movie. So I thought that was pretty awesome, and it's a good song to dance to and have sex to. So it got all the bases covered. As far as negatives for me, I don't really have any. I mean, Naughton's acting is one thing, but and one thing I always talk about because it's a big deal to me is set design because as we've talked about in the past, I'm a big fan of the Hammer horror movies, and early on with the Curse of Frankenstein, the Horror of Dracula, the Curse of the Werewolf, the Mummy, the set design in those first few movies until about the mid later 60s probably were so great. And then about in the mid 60s when you're talking about the Taste of the Blood of Dracula and all the way to Scars of Dracula, the set design became crappy. They started making the movies cheaper, and so that's one of the reasons. Plus, you get movies like that came out before this, like the set design in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Halloween or John Carpenter's Halloween. Excuse me.
Thank you.
You know, Dawn of the Dead. I mean, that's one of my biggest things because it's in movies, especially like this. You want to get you. I want to feel immersed into it, and the beginning of the movie, you feel like you're there. You can feel the chill in the air, and you can feel all the eyes on them in the slaughtered lamb. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things I like about this, and it's one of the best parts about this movie. And the madness in Piccadilly Square at the end of the movie is so good because it's the legit location, and
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest thumbs up about this movie is the production design overall. And then of course we get the great Stan Winston. Was it Stan Winston?
Rick Baker.
Rick Baker. Stan Winston was doing the Howling. No, that was
That
uh
was um,
can't think of
Rob
his
Bottin.
name. Yeah, Rabutin. Anyway, yeah, but the creature design is fantastic all the way to the Nazis. Um, just there, so there's not much to complain about with this movie. The music's great, the score is great, the actors are great. They may not have. I mean, the love story isn't the greatest, but I mean, again, I think it's more believable than Halloween Ends, and Episode Two, Anakin and Padme. But overall, I think some of the laughs are but overall, this is a 9 out of 10 movie for sure. Or
Mhm.
as we have it over that, which is going to lead me into our scores. Are you ready for this? I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. I usually you do yours first. I give this a 91% overall. This movie is without a doubt the best werewolf movie of all time. May not be my favorite. I'm allowed to say something else is my favorite and acknowledging that something is better than it. Because
Yeah.
Silver
Totally.
Bullet is not a great movie by any means, but I love it. And The Howling is just not better than this. It's a good movie. They're
Yeah.
very different in tone, feeling, and the stories are completely different. Even the werewolves are different. Like you mentioned bipedal before. That's The Howling. And the creature design in both is so different, but that's one of the great things about werewolf movies is it's not carbon copy werewolves, not carbon copy stories. I mean, there are numerous, I guess legends or curses of werewolves, and this is just one of many, and it's brilliantly shot, greatly acted, for the most part, and it's everything. It's just a great movie. 9 out of 10, 100%. I give it that extra 1% for a 91%. So, yes. What do you think of my score?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
The thing is, like, and I do this objectively. My score for The Howling is way lower, and same thing with Silver Bullet. So this, if I was being objective, this is 100% the best werewolf movie in my opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. Um, The Howling is first on my list. Yes. Well, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Howling is a very good, very, very good werewolf movie. Seth, on the other hand, gives this one a 95%. Excellent score.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite horror film of all time. Because again, I like the characters. I like the balance between the horror and the comedy, particularly the way that John Landis, who's known for comedy, he takes the horror seriously, and I think the horror elements are really strong, and then the comedy elements are almost natural, like because they come from the characters and they come from their personalities, and I just think there's a really good balance there. Um, Obviously, the special effects are a 10. Entertainment factor clearly for me is a 10. I enjoy watching this movie. I watched a lot. Um, I think the editing's really good. I think the score is good. It's kind of minimal because John Landis does use a lot of songs as opposed to going completely all in on score. Um, but yeah, this is just it's a fantastic movie. I think it's really fun. It's I think the writing is pretty sharp. Again, as I said before, not all the humor lands, but the majority of it does. And I think the horror is great. And yeah, it's just a really awesome movie. And I was going to bring up something too, because going back to the whole uh, bipedal thing.
Mm.
I was listening to a couple of clips of Rick Baker being interviewed by Joe Rogan from like a couple years ago, and apparently Rick Baker wanted to do the bipedal, and he was trying to convince John Landis to do it, and John Landis was like, "No, we're doing it my way." So I thought that was kind of interesting that even Rick Baker was trying to get him to do, the superior, in my opinion, werewolf type
I
of
agree.
werewolf.
When I think of a werewolf, I think of the bipedal. If anybody doesn't know what that means, that's two legs. Because I mean, it goes all
Yeah.
the way back to the Wolf Man. You know, he's. I mean, every like iconic imagery, Curse of the Werewolf, they're upright, basically. And this, I mean, it's a literal. It's just a big ass wolf, really, when it comes down to it. Which, but it did look great.
Mhm.
And it's hard to find a good solid image of that,
Oh,
by the way.
totally.
I looked really like hard to try to find an image of the werewolf, but everything kept coming up either a drawing or an action figure. It's like, nah, give me a good solid image of the werewolf. Um, but it still turned out really cool. And they tried to do. I'm trying to go with my memory here because it's been a few years since I've watched Paris, but I think they're upright in Paris, aren't they?
No,
Are they not?
there's a couple moments, but they're mostly on all fours. They're mostly the quadra, but
Hmm.
there's like a couple moments where they do stand
Yeah,
upright.
yeah. Okay, it's
So
been a
it's
while.
like
I
a
can't wait to watch
combination of the
that, by
both.
the way. Hmm?
Yeah, it's a combination of the both.
Okay, that's yeah, like a bear almost. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, because and I'm not a Twilight fan or anything like that, but when my wife was watching it and they should introduce the werewolves and they were giant wolves, I was like, come on. Yeah, I know, but it's like that was the one reason I was watching it. Whether I was like, I wanted to see what they did with the werewolves, and it was a giant wolf, like literally a giant wolf. I'm like, get creative, like come on. But yeah, and back to it. We're going to do our scores. So Seth gives it a 95%, very well deserved. 91% for me, and if you do math, it's a 93% overall. Uh, well, this must be a small ass image, but yeah, damn good movie. Damn good movie. It's one. As a matter of fact, did I ever tell you about Helena watching it? I think I have.
No.
Okay, it was last
Did you? Well,
year.
refresh my memory.
So yeah, last year we watched it, and I was like, she's like, "What are you gonna watch tonight?" It was during October, and I said, "American Werewolf in London," and she's like, "Oh, can I watch that with you?" I was like, "I don't." I'm so I always think when my with my kids, like, is there anything bad that they can't see? And I'm trying to think if his dick's out or anything like that, and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah. It's there's a trend, and I remember Reynolds. So check this out. Reynolds, when he's a huge Batman fan, and he loves almost all the rogues, and Man Bat's one of his favorites. And in Batman the Animated Series, the very first episode was called On Leather Wings, and there it's Man Bat. And Man Bat transforms. Reynolds bawled like a baby, crying because of the transformation scene. Animation also. And so I kept that in mind with Helena. I was like, I told her, I was like, there's a transformation scene in this movie, and it's kind of rough. And she's like, what do you mean rough? And so I was like, we'll just watch it. So we watched the scene, and I was kind of watching her, eyeballing her, and she's like, can you pause it? I'm like, are you okay? She's like, that was amazing. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, they had some talented people working on this movie to do that. It looked so real. And this is my 9-year-old daughter. And I'm like, okay, cool. And we got past it, and when we were done with the movie, she's like, that was amazing. I love that movie. I see why Seth loves it so much. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, she knows it didn't break her top three, which are Phantasm, Poltergeist, and what's the other one? Oh, she's gonna hate me if I don't remember it. And she loves Phantasm, so give her that. And she's loved it since she was a little, like really little. I have a little video of her when she was like 5 or 6, going, boy. Anyway, she's cute. No more about my kids. What about your kids? Have they seen An American Werewolf in London? Did you hear me? Are you there? Is anybody out there?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Have you shown your kids this movie?
For a few there. I tried to, and I'm going upstairs now. It's boring, and then I immediately filed for adoption.
And divorcing your kids. Yeah, it's not boring.
Yeah,
not at any point in this movie is it boring. So I think we're gonna wrap this one up. Again, if anybody's out there that has any interest in our other shows, check out Rage of Razor on YouTube and Retro Outsider, I believe on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Retro Outsider. I'll look that up real fast. Excuse me. And you'll be able to catch our superhero stuff. And I'm going to start doing rate these movies on a scale of 1 to 10, because on that page, that's how they did it. They can't grasp the 5-star for some reason, the people who follow that page. But they're able to do the rated on 1 to 10. It's easy to write. 7, and Seth's going to start putting up some articles on retrooutsider.com at some point, I think. I don't know.
I really should.
Yeah, it's face. I'll just.
I've been slacking in articles in general, even for the Horror Syndicate.
Well, I mean, with the Horror Syndicate's issues lately.com, I understand. I've been wanting to write some stuff myself, and I'm like, God, things are weird on the Horror Syndicate's website. You can still check out the horrorsyndicate.com and Rage of Razor on YouTube. We only have like 70 subscribers. That's okay. I think, let me double check. The Horror Syndicate, we're up to 1509, so that's good. That's where we want more subscribers. Let me see. Rage of Razor is 70. Get me to 75. I was stuck on 69 forever. Almost didn't want to get any more subscribers. Ooh. Anyway, All right, let's wrap this one up, Seth. Give me some final thoughts on American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. Again, I can't state it enough. It's my favorite horror film of all time. I've mentioned before, the balance is really good between horror and comedy.
Mhm.
I think it's just really well done, and I have very little negative about it. It's got amazing effects, and one thing I didn't mention too was what I really love about the transformation sequence is how painful it is. I felt
Mhm.
like, 'cause, I mean, before American Werewolf in London, when people transform in films, when they experience the metamorphosis, um, they just go through it. There's not much of like a demonstration of the feeling behind it about your
I mean, Lon Chaney was
flesh
asleep.
and your muscles and your bones. Yeah, yeah. And with American Werewolf in London, what I really love about it too is like it's a slow transformation and it's very painful. And I think David Naughton who's not, as we said, he's not the greatest actor in the world, but goddamn, he sold that transformation scene with the way that between his performance and then of course you got to credit sound effects and the special effects as well for it. But I think that's what really makes this stand out in, in, in particular, because I mean, it's not just Rick Baker's amazing effects works, but it's also the way that the transformation is sort of sold to us as the audience, where David's in pain and, it's a very painful process and a very slow process. It's not like Werewolf of London, walk in, transform in, throwing on a scarf.
Yes,
This is
on,
very
yeah.
painful and yeah. So again, I have a lot of enthusiasm for this movie. I first watched it when I was a teenager. I think I may have seen it. I think it was on maybe like FX or something like that, and I was like home from school and I watched it. And I really took a strong liking to it. And then I immediately went to the video store and rented the VHS of it. And god damn it, I love it. And it's a movie I have a very high enthusiasm for, and it's one that I watch a lot. And yeah.
It definitely is a good movie. I mean, even not just a werewolf movie. It's one of the best horror films of all time. And but I will say one thing. It's no, it's good, but it's no Werewolf Santa. Just saying. Uh,
Would you like me to review that?
you should. What, by the way, what is
Just
your
kidding.
count now for werewolf movies?
No.
Have you gotten closer to 100?
You know what? I never actually updated my list last night after watching that movie. Because by the time I got done with Werewolf Santa, my mind was just ready to explode. And so I put on When Evil Lurks.
Which you
and
liked.
that totally captivated me. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Definitely top 5 of the
awesome
year.
movie, man. Oh,
I told
awesome
you.
movie.
I told you. I told you, didn't I?
Dude, that
I
dog
tried
scene.
to undersell it whenever I told you about it, because I don't want, like, with foreign horror, it's hit or miss, and not everybody's gonna, like Nate was all about what was that? Speak No Evil last year, and some other one, and I watched them. I was like, these are the best movies of the year. I'm like, no, they weren't. And people were talking about when I watched When Evil Lurks, people were like, oh, this is the best horror movie of the year. I'm like, fuck, it's gonna be one of those that everybody thinks is great, and I'm gonna think it sucks. But it's a lot of shock and awe. Like I said last night, I didn't mean that there's no substance to it, because there is, but there's a lot of shock and awe. There's a lot of shocking moments. You're like, what the fuck? And it looks like the effects in that movie are so good.
The third act is a better Children of the Corn movie than every Children of the Corn movie.
Yes, 100%.
Just gotta throw that out there.
100%. It'll definitely be in our Horror Syndicate's discourse top 25 this year for sure, or top 20, whatever it is we're doing this year. Definitely, it's on Shudder, I believe. When Evil Lurks, check it out if you haven't. Silence.
But as far as Werewolf Santa goes, don't check it out.
Seth watches bad werewolf movies, so we don't have to. This makes him a hero. Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate the support. We appreciate the support. Discourse is dead in the water. I watched that tiger movie, and it sucked. I don't want to talk about that movie. I know Nate's going to want to come back and talk about that movie, but I am so glad we did not talk about that movie because I hated it. Tigers Don't Cry or some shit. I can't remember what it was called. David sold me his last Brutal Massacre poster. A lot of the other cast members have told me that the poster was the only for people that worked on Brutal Massacre. That's cool. That's, you know what? That's one of the better ones. Urban Harvest. I hated it when I was younger. When I binged watched the entire series in 2019 to do my ranking, and I was surprised at how much I liked that one. That one and the fourth one are pretty good. Disappointed in the second one.
I like the fourth one a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
That one, what's that one? Fields of Terror or something like that? No, that's the fifth one.
No, Fields of Terror was 5. The Gathering.
Yeah, The Gathering, yeah. They start bleeding together after 666 is Isaac's return. Yeah. We're gonna have to. I don't know how we're gonna do the Children of the Corn series because I don't want to do an episode on every single movie. We may have to do like the first movie and then break it up into 2 episodes. You know, so 3 episodes total.
I think we
can a ranking episode, or just talk about the first movie and do a ranking episode. That might be the way to do it because the like once you get past the 4th movie, they're awful. No, there's nothing good about any of the movies after the 4th one because even 2's got its redeemable qualities somewhat, but 3 and 4 are good. 5 and beyond. 5 to me is one of the worst, but like Runaway I think is terrible. Any of them made in this millennium are terrible. The newest one was probably, I thought it was one of the better ones, and that's because they're all bad.
It's like my number 4 in this series.
Yeah, and it's by default because the rest of them suck. But a friendly reminder: next week, Seth and I return on Wednesday night for an American Werewolf in Paris. Things are about to get hairy. Check it out. It is on Peacock, I believe, Tubi as well. Unless you have a Blu-ray copy, you lucky son of a bitch. Which nobody does. Oh, I bet somebody does. I just thought about that. You know who I'm talking about?
You can ask them.
I think I'm gonna. But anyway, and then the following week, Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions, and we will finish the year out with Toby Hooper's Life Force. So make sure you check those out. I can't remember. I'll look real fast to see if they're streaming or anything like that. I believe Life Force. Last time I checked, it was on Shudder. But Lord of Illusions, I don't remember if it's streaming. It's on Max and Hulu. Max more than likely. So I think Life Force is on Tubi. So more than likely it's still on Shudder. Check it out. Space Vampires, good stuff. Good times. Children of the Corn, Revelations. See that one? I remember that one. That one had a solid trailer, and the movie just kind of didn't deliver. There are Blu-rays in American Werewolf in Paris, but not in North America. Good. I appreciate that. You need to check out those other 2 movies too. We really like having you around. Seth, great show, man. I'm glad that for the most part everything worked out. Little bumps in the roads here and there, but I think did you get to say everything you wanted to say about your favorite horror movie?
I think so. I got a little distracted with the kids and with the glitching, but I think I've said everything. Yeah.
Okay.
If not, I mean, check out. I wrote an article on it for the HorrorSyndicate.com where I put it into the Horror Syndicate's Horror Hall of Fame, and I explain a lot of what I said tonight. You know, about what I love about the film and why I think it's a really great horror film. So check it out.
And that actually, you can find that on our Facebook page if you're watching on Facebook, somewhere below us. Yeah. Also, real fast, one thing I wanted to run past you, because we remember going into 2024, we're going back to franchises. And on January 10th, we're supposed to start the Child's Play films, starting with the 1988 Child's Play film, great movie, followed by one of the best sequels in franchise film history, in my opinion, and definitely your opinion. It's your favorite of the franchise because you are, in fact, who?
I'm Sequel Seth.
There you go. But I wanted to run this past you, but I didn't ask because I wanted to have you on record, live, knowing what you say. Top 20 films we've rated already for our first episode of the next year. So we go back and we'll put together. I'll put together lists of our top 20 films that we've done so far, rated. Only ratings. We're not going to do our personal of those movies, just our slash scores. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah.
Okay, you guys heard it.
We're
going to do that January 3rd. We're doing. So we're talking about, out of all the Friday the 13th movies, all the Elm Street movies, all the Scream movies, all the what else is there? Halloween. These movies, Phantasm. What else have we done? We've done so much in the past. I mean, Silent Night, Deadly Night. New Year's Evil. There's so many movies we've done. I can't even remember. Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So we're gonna do our top
Terror
20.
Train.
Terror Train. Yeah, that's right. Terror Train. We'll do our top 20 of all of these movies. So it'll be like, out of all of that stuff, we'll figure out what Seth's number one is and what my number one is and what our combined number one is, because that'll be pretty fun. I think we'll do a top 20. Might take us a little bit of time, but it'll be fun. It'll be worth it. And that'll be on January 10th. So we got 3 more episodes before then. And then we also have, we're going to be doing the next 3 in the Tomorrowverse over at Rage of Razor and Retro Outsider, probably on Sunday, hopefully, if not Monday. Weird things keep happening at my house. My basement, my upstairs bathroom leaked down into the downstairs bathroom overnight one night. It's all taken care of, though. I figured it out. It's fixed. Just got to get some good paint. And then my new job's wearing me out, but I'm almost done with training. After the training's over, apparently it gets better. So let's hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to have to find a new job. But thanks everybody for joining us. I always appreciate anybody who comes on, chimes in, lets us know that they're there. And definitely anybody who hasn't already, hit the subscribe button. Didn't I see that dog in Bad Moon? Or New Moon? Or whatever the hell it's called?
Yeah, this is my good boy.
Yeah.
Bad Moon.
Definitely hit the subscribe button for me on YouTube. And check us out on Facebook if you haven't already. We do a lot of stuff on Facebook. Today was Werewolf Wednesday, all kinds of great werewolf activity, especially in the Horror Syndicate group. It's just called the Horror Syndicate group, and you can join and start conversations that you'd like to talk about. Maybe you have something that's on your mind horror-wise. Put it in the group. Start a conversation. Seth's been putting up a lot of stuff. A lot of members put a lot of stuff up in there. There's like 3,400 people in there. Check it out, the Horror Syndicate group on Facebook. Anything else, Seth, before I say bye-bye?
I didn't mean to call you Meatloaf, Jack.
Oh, man. I missed this.
An asshole.
We should do that for this show if we can't do it for Discourse. What do you think? You want to summarize every movie, and we'll get to play that because I love that. Maybe we can. Maybe going into the new year, we'll change the format up because I still have my Razor brain.
Not a bad question, Bert.
So we could change the format up on this show a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I just want to talk about it in front of everybody so they can see kind of like.
So you got proof.
Yeah, so I got proof. Yeah, Seth, you said so. You said we could do that.
Yeah.
That way, our 6 people who are watching right now. A bad mood is good. Did I call it new moon? That's fucking Twilight. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, way to fucking go, Ray. Way to go.
I know. I'm off my game.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I am ashamed of myself. Trade in my horror card tomorrow.